to Hearties, the official after show and podcast where we bring your questions directly to the cast and crew. I'm Chelsea from Puerto Rico.
And I'm Kim from Barrie, Ontario, Canada.
Hey, Hearties, Jeanette from Michigan.
So we're here with a director who I just think is so cool, and we always love to talk to her. She's a talent behind episodes 9 and 10, Siobhan Devine. Yay!
Yay!
Hi.
So great to
I'm
see
so
you.
happy to I'm so happy to be here. I've been dying for these episodes to come out because we can't say anything until they're out. So I'm like, but yeah, really happy they're out now.
Yay. And so, Hardy's Siobhan is in her fifth season of directing the show. And as a reminder, last year she brought us, the Granville prison storyline that was so emotional, with Allie. And then that night scene when Lucas, took like ushered Jeanette to the edge of town, and also Pal the Pony's arrival. And then also the year before, I think, Siobhan, you directed the incredible like black tie ball in the
Right.
saloon, and then Lucas's like big radio dress. Like, so how did this year's block compare to other years, like previous years?
Yeah, it was a little bit different. It was super interesting when I got the two scripts because it was like, oh, these are very different tonally, and so
Mm.
that's a challenge because we shoot them at the same time, so you can be shooting scenes from one episode and another, and then go back. And so that was the biggest challenge really was to make sure that the tone of the two episodes, suited the episodes as opposed to not letting the action type stuff bleed into the community family episode and vice versa, right? To try and make sure that they were tonally as separate as the scripts. So I would say that was really the most challenging thing to do. It just takes a bit of thought, like to just make sure that I'm clear about what we're doing and what the tone is of each piece and make sure that I kind of adhere to that. So yeah, that was pretty challenging. Fun though.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. And you mentioned like that there's, some action in these episodes, but also there were some pretty funny moments. So talk to us about, first we have the Garrison Gang, and some Hardys thought that the Garrison Gang, ought to be, a bit more menacing. So we enjoyed, that Woody and Sunny were not, as smart, let's say,
Weren't the sharpest tools in the shed, were they?
They
Right,
were
right.
not.
Yeah. So talk to us about, balancing those things, the fact that it was like a kidnapping, but not wanting it to be too scary.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Like it is a kidnapping, but you'll notice that he didn't kidnap with a gun, right? He did it with a shovel and with threats. And so I think that, yeah, the idea was to make sure that it was, of course, threatening, but it wasn't too dark. I feel that even though there was a threat level, we believed all the way through that these two kids were going to get out of it. They were going to be saved or they were going to save themselves. And I feel that's important. I mean, I felt it was important in the story that we trust our characters, right? And yeah, they're not the brightest, especially Woody. I mean, really not the
Gosh,
brightest.
that guy.
I
And
was
he
just
was
a lookout.
he was so fun to work with because, I guess he knew that the character was a little bit dumb. And so, but he was like, but often dumb people don't know they're dumb. So it was like, we talked about how he should just be and let the dialogue tell the story rather than, leaning into being. So that was fun, just humanizing him a little bit so that, you could believe that he was, you know, just not very swift and somehow ended up in this mess, kind of despite himself in a way.
Yeah. And I think that showed because every time he would speak, he was like sure of himself as he was saying it. But then it's like, uh, no,
Yeah, it
no,
definitely felt like up till that last moment where Nathan comes in, Nathan and Bill come in.
right.
Like most of the escalation and de-escalation was dialogue based. Like the
Hmm.
way they escalated and the way Elizabeth tried to de-escalate them and the way the kids tried to, it was all through the through the script and the dialogue. So that's interesting
Yeah,
to see for
yeah.
you as a director how to make that work with
How to,
your
yeah, totally, absolutely. Like it, so it was like, so you felt the threat, but yeah, you're right that it was all dialogue based, and so it was good, really. I felt that it was like the right way to go, a well written scene, and we got to see the actors do a little bit different things as well, like trying to outsmart people. We don't see a lot of that. So that was kind of fun to see that. And we didn't mind those two guys being outsmarted. So
so true.
Can you tell us about the stunt doubles and any stage combat that you had to choreograph? We know
sure.
Jacob Shumay plays Oliver is relatively new to TV. So how was it working on that with him?
Well, okay, so in general, we had each actor who did it, like the ride had a stunt double, right? Anyone who had to do a stunt, like so the people riding on the horses, they all had stunt doubles, and then the Sonny Garrison had a stunt double because he had to be kicked in the chest. Um, and then there's always a stunt coordinator on deck. And so me and the stunt coordinator and our little team, we went and found that area, and then we worked out how the staging would work, because there's things like the tree has to be there, and then the the box of money, or trunk of no money, I guess in this case, has to be there. And then once they've dug it up, then there's a big hole. So you have to make sure that nobody or no animal falls into that hole, right? So it was designed so that we did the dialogue of the Garrisons and Allie and Oliver around the tree, like around the hole. But then once Oliver grabbed the shovel, he was able to take us away from that hole, so that then all the action happened on the other side of the grove. So it was
Very
safer.
cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
nice.
that's the kind of stuff that we were working out in advance, was how to make it look realistic, but also to keep everybody safe. And so the stunt coordinator is really important there. And then we also have a stunt coordinator and a horse manager, like the guy who owns the horses, who manages the horses. So yeah, it takes a lot of preparation to do something like that, because you don't want anyone to be hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
and
very cool.
Jacob was amazing. He was like really keen to show especially when he was two times. One when Allie was initially grabbed by Woody, and then he was like tried to protect her, and then also the other time in the grove, like he was really into making his character, like he wanted his character to protect Allie, and then Allie and Elizabeth. So yeah, he was awesome. I loved working with him. He did a great job. He came a long way. Even in every episode, I felt that he grew as an actor. And it's wonderful to see that. I love working with young actors. It's literally one of my favorite things, because their learning curve is so big, and it's just a joy to watch someone blossom like that.
I can imagine. And the Hardys really are enjoying him this season on the
Oh, great.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, he's a lovely, lovely young man, and he did really awesome. Yeah.
Great. We have some questions from Hardys. Uh,
Okay.
Corinne Kruger of Mount Prospect, Illinois, was among the Hardys who noticed that Henry was riding on a white horse. It was so striking. We, of course, associate a white horse with the good guy, the rescuer. How did that come to be?
I think it might have been a little bit kind of fortuitous. I think the two things were at play there. One is to get a horse of a different color, because cinematically it's, nice when you have more than just three brown horses. And then
Yeah.
also all of those horses also have their own doubles.
Oh,
So yeah, because if a horse gets tired, or if they get a bit snippy, then you
right.
want to be able to swap them out for their double, right? So yeah, so that's the other thing that came into play, was what horses had a double. And in that case, I think that one horse was super lively, and then the other horse was super gentle, but they looked almost exactly the same. So yeah, so so that's the answer really. It wasn't like on purpose a white horse because he's a good guy, but it was on purpose a white horse because we wanted his horse to be different. And that horse also had its own double.
I'm always so amazed about all the things that go into this that you have to think about, and the details that are behind the scenes. Like, I just love talking to our directors.
I had a Hardy ask me and mention this, which I thought was super interesting. I don't know if everyone remembers back in the day that Abigail rode a white horse, and they were like,
Oh.
"Did Henry choose Abigail's horse?" Because I kind of love the poetic idea of that.
Wow. Well, I definitely don't know about that.
Right?
Wow.
Well, that's a
Kind of one
great
of those.
connection still,
One of those Hardy wishes that you like
Yeah.
to think was a really deep meaning behind it.
I love
Really
this.
wasn't.
I love the things that Hardy's come up with, because sometimes it's really profound, like that I haven't even thought of, and then I'm like, holy moly,
So true.
That's so funny. And we have another one. Hardys are very accustomed to seeing Elizabeth ring that cowbell for school. Holly Peterson of Plattsburgh, New York asks, was that traditionally a way that a search party would signal one another in those days? Do we
Well,
even
that
know
is a great
that?
question. I don't know that, but I do know that in the script, Elizabeth, like when they all go and get their horses, the Elizabeth looks around and sees the bells, because she doesn't grab a weapon, but she grabs the bells. And it is a way, I think, for her to signal where she is. And I just think it was really sort of quick thinking, because she was, running out. She didn't have time to get anything except for the horse. And then she saw the bells, and then she just thought she might be able to use them. And so I thought it showed her kind of quick thinking in a crisis. But I don't think it's traditionally, I don't know. I don't know. How about that?
Hard to know.
Yeah. But
It
great
was
question.
fun though. I was like, oh, that is perfect that she's doing that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and so many people referred to them as a cowbell, but to me it looked like the bear bells that lead.
They were bear bells.
The
They
bear
were
bells.
bear
Oh,
bells.
okay.
Yeah.
Which
We
would make
made them
sense to have them in the stable, because horse
Yes.
riders would need them to keep them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think
Right.
we made them a little bit bigger than the regular bear bells just for TV. So they were a little bit bigger, but they were bear bells. Yeah.
Those bear bells are becoming their own character this season.
Yeah.
Too funny. Well, something else we've loved this season is the cinematography and these new, exciting, like cinematic shots we're seeing. We got to talk about the horse scene that you just briefly touched on. So that looked like you used some slow-mo there. Was that a drone shot from above? Talk to us about creating that.
Yeah, it was a drone. I really wanted to use a drone there. First of all, to see the scope of Hope Valley, but also I wanted to show the horses going off in different directions to show that they were all searching. And then the slow motion, I'm a big fan of slow motion, because you can always speed it up again to regular motion, like if you decide that it's not the right feel. But it just means, and sometimes you just slow it down a little bit so that you can see what's happening, because when things are moving, like a horse galloping, that's fast, right? And so I think it just sort of adds to the drama a little bit, and it allows us to really sit with the characters and see and be with them as they're doing their exciting action. So yeah, it was really fun to work with the drone. It looks so beautiful. Yeah.
It did. Yeah, it was really stunning.
Everything looks beautiful in Hope Valley.
Yeah, and like the combination of the music with the slow-mo, and it just elevated the moment of like, oh, there's tension.
This
They
is
look
big.
so cool too. They look so
Yeah.
cool.
Don't they? Oh my gosh, they look so cool. Yeah. And they had their, sorry, go ahead.
Well, Elizabeth just going into mama bear mode too. It conveyed that emotion. Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah, no, I was just going to say they all had stunt doubles. So then the stunt doubles go out and do it first, but then they all did their own riding, because they're all quite capable riders. Like once we've practiced with the stunt doubles, then they often do their own riding, and they did on that. So
So cool. And is a drone something that you have regular access to, or is it kind of a special that you have to get it just for certain days, or
That's a special. Yeah,
was
for
that?
sure. So
Yeah.
then on that day, I think we also, because we just needed it for a couple of hours in the morning to get those shots. And then they went and did some town shots because you have the drone for a certain amount of time. So then, yeah, Mike Roll got some really fantastic footage with the drone. So yeah, that is peppered in, among
Right.
along all of
Yeah.
the episodes. Yeah.
So cool.
That's
Well,
neat.
another horse scene that I personally loved was the scene with the two men riding off to confront MacGinty. I just thought it was visually gorgeous. The coloring of the green trees with the red serge and Lucas in his suit. And I love how you started with the wide shot of them both riding up. That was so cool. Talk to us about creating that.
So, well, first of all, we were super lucky because we were shooting it at a time of day when the sun was just starting to come down. So that was the first thing. That was just sheer Hope Valley luck. And then the second thing was I wanted them to meet in a neutral space, like not in Hope Valley, not at his like in a neutral space. And so that field became like, okay, even though it was MacGinty's land, it's still nowhere we really know, and it's in a little bit in the middle of nowhere. So it meant that nobody had the upper hand. And so it was this meeting of the three men who were kind of, equals, regardless of the fact that one of them's a mount. I mean, they all have different jobs, but I just wanted them on this neutral ground so that we could see the interactions between them that were human as opposed to based on their status as their job statuses. So yeah, I thought it worked really well. I mean, I loved each man trying to save the other man from themselves. Like it's such a wonderful moment, like when they each got to do it too. So yeah, I loved it.
Did Kevin and Chris did they have fun doing that, or did they have a few bloopers on that one?
I think they had fun doing that. I mean, it was no, I don't think there were that many. I could be wrong, but I don't think there were that many bloopers, and they did have fun. They they love working together. And so it was nice for them to have a scene together that was out of the town, that was not like, that was different in a different place. So yeah, they were awesome.
It had been a while since we'd seen them team up. So Hearties love those moments for sure.
There was one long shot, I believe, that had the horses facing off against each other, and I was like, "Oh, that's like a standoff of the horses." That's so cool.
It did. When they first walk up, it gave me like old school Western vibes.
Exactly.
Like
right.
meet me at high noon kind of.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was super fun, and it's funny. I learned something. I mean, I do ride, but I didn't know this that. Like if you take off the reins, then those horses they know they're not working and they just start to eat the grass. It was kind of amazing because I was like, how are we going to keep the horse there? And then the horse wrangler's like, well, just slide the reins over their heads and then they know they're not working. I'm like, wow.
No kidding. That's so cool.
That's great.
Yeah. So we're going to pivot now to Lucas and Edie. And so they have their working dinner. And so there were a lot of like comedic moments in that scene. So we think they have great chemistry. Like, I think this is like, Hearties have mentioned this throughout, that they have great chemistry, and I totally agree with that. So talk to us about structuring that scene and how you combine, the comedy, but also giving us hints of that romance, of that attraction that's happening.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting scene, really, because it's quite a serious scene. Like the content of them, talking about about going ahead without permission and basically declaring, like war. It's quite serious. But but they have their romantic moments. So there's the serious and then the romantic. And then, of course, there's Ben and May coming in. I mean, it was so, I love working on those sorts of scenes because it's like trying to maintain all of those scenes within the scene. Basically, it's one scene, but really there's three things going on, especially the drama and the comedy. And so what I chose to do was you'll notice that I shot it what I would call from the inside. So the master was where the wall is. And so that way we had our serious players, Edie and Lucas, in the foreground. And then in the background, that's when Ben and May come in. So the comedy is behind the serious. So it sort of sets the tone. It's like this comedy, but we're not going to let the comedy upstage the drama, which can easily happen. So that's why I staged it like that. And we were always on the inside. When they came to the table, we were on the inside. And then we kept the cutting to a minimum so that we didn't keep cutting back and forth. We always stayed with our main couple, which was Edie and Lucas. So yeah, it was quite an interesting scene to devise, just to how we were going to, and you want to have the comedy, but you don't want to lose the stuff in the foreground, which is this very serious conversation. And then the romance, I mean, they just are so great. Like, like those two, they're just so great together. And so that chemistry plays into a lot of things. Like, it's impossible to ignore, really.
Yeah, it looked great. Like, I really enjoyed that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned Ben, and so he has stolen so many scenes, especially in episode 9. So he mentions Buster Keaton and Douglas Fairbanks, to fist to running after Ava with her trunk, like his arrival to the saloon when he hadn't find Allie and Oliver, and then they're like, they're here. And then what the scene that we were talking about, like him and May just forgetting the cafe dinner service like completely. So we would love to hear about how you collaborate with Ben, because he's just so funny. He's so gifted.
Mm-hmm. He is so gifted, comedically gifted. I love working with him. And I love to find out what he always brings something. Like he doesn't just go home and then show up the next day. Like, he goes home and he must think about it, because he comes with some super clever ideas and, like how to kind of like heighten or make something that's funnier. So I'm always excited to see what he's been working on. And then I just try and make the space for that. So, like, for example, when he comes out with the trunk, like, we just moved the camera, actually, because he came out with the trunk and then he ran. I'm like, oh geez, I think we need to get this. So, because it's so funny. So then we moved back so that we would be able to get him running out and running down the street, and then be left with the 4-shot instead of, because he had so much action. If I stayed close, then he would have been out of the shot in a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's that kind of thing, because he also acts kind of like the comedy is big, and so I also when I'm shooting him, we shoot a little bit wider, like the Hallelujah. Like, I love that scene when he sings the Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who would know he was going to do that? So it was the best. And then I give him the space and I let it roll. So yeah, he's always a joy, always a joy.
And Viv joining in was awesome as well later on this. Oh,
Yeah, I wanted to let them go all the way through the whole song, but I'm like, okay, sorry guys.
I love that they kept Joseph's little "ooh" at the end, like responding to Hickam. Like, they didn't cut that. It was such a good button on that one.
Yeah.
We also want to hear about the Schwartzman School, and Carrie Campo of Columbus, Ohio, asked if you could talk about how you approached working with the actors who were visually impaired, and how you educated yourself to direct them, and how the team came together to create this inclusive storyline.
Very good, many questions. First of all, it was like really an honor to work on that storyline. Like, I was thrilled to get it. We, everyone really wanted to, if it was possible, to have visually impaired actors. And we found those wonderful women who were, I thought, amazing. And then I did quite a bit of research into other shows that use visually impaired actors. And so, Sean Levy directed what's it called? All the Light We Cannot See, which is a miniseries on Netflix. And it's based on one of my extremely favorite books. And it features a blind girl and then a blind woman. And so they use two visually impaired, like a youngster and an older person. And so there's several articles and videos describing how they, what they did on set to make it safe, to make it, and so I learned a huge amount from that. And so with production, we created a green room space for them that was close to the set. We made sure there was bathrooms available close to the set. That the set was seeing eye dog friendly because many of them came with their animals. We had transport pick up the actors and the background actors. We picked them all up from home and we drove them all back, which normally
wow. Yeah.
Because how else would they get there?
Right.
And we just wanted to make it as comfortable as possible. So we had transport on deck for that. Everyone really wanted this to work, like from production to the crew. There was an extra crew on deck so that when we were having like the two actors, and I think there were 6 background, so that's 8 people, visually impaired people, to get from one space to another. And so we had a couple of extra staff, and the cast were amazing. I mean, they were like amazing. They were thrilled to bits also. So it was really like a full effort from everybody, and was really like, it was the last day of shooting and it was extremely moving, and everyone was very committed to, we're going to do this. We're going to do a blind school. Then we need to have, we need to do our very best to find the actors, which, casting, I don't know, they're amazing that they found those actors, and then to make everyone feel comfortable and confident on the set. And then when I was working with her, I was working with Keisha, who's played Clementine, and she's like a total spitfire. And I just said to her, okay, what do you need from me? And so then she told me exactly what she needed. So she needed me to walk her around the room and like explain where everything was. And then, so every time I was a little bit stuck, she'd say, well, if she had to hit her mark, then she would say, well, I need to hit my mark. And then we figured out, we could put a sandbag down so that she can feel it with the end of her toes, so she knows where her mark is. And
good.
Yeah, it was truly like something I'll never forget. Yeah. Wow. It was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I have to imagine when you wrapped that day, it was quite emotional for everybody.
It was, and it was a truly Hope Valley moment. I really felt that everybody just pulled together to make that really, really special for all of us. Yeah.
And props to the network too for supporting all that too. And
yeah, totally.
Bringing what a cool team effort.
Yeah, and Viv, whenever we talk to Viv and Natasha and Vienna, and they talk so highly of just how the crew came together and how great these, actresses were, and like the background actors who are also visually impaired, like they were mentioning how it was an amazing experience for them and a learning experience for them as well. So
right. Awesome. Yeah, I think for all of us, and that's like to be so inclusive and to learn how to be more inclusive. I mean, that was, a gift.
That's amazing. Speaking of Natasha, her monologue, the one where she recalls how Angela first tried sledding, was so moving. Can you tell us about conveying that full circle moment with her as she encouraged Angela to give the Schwartzman School a try?
Yeah, that was a really lovely moment. And we talked about it a little bit. Like, she really wanted to be close. She felt that Minnie would be close to Angela. And so it was really all about the staging, because so much happens, like Angela comes in and then she spills the tea. And then how could we get them to a place where they were close? And I loved the fact that we ended up with Minnie lower than Angela. Looking up at her instead of the other way around. Like, I really felt that staging sort of conveyed how much confidence she had in her daughter. Whereas if she had been taller or even just next to her, I don't think it would have worked as well. It was just something about the way they ended up, that it was, she was sort of kneeling down and like, like really leaning into that moment. It was a really great, it was a very cool scene to shoot. And it's wonderful to see Natasha get, more, have the space to do that size of an arc, from being afraid to being supportive. And as someone I have two daughters of my own, so I totally understand how you need to sometimes push them out of the nest a little bit, like because sometimes you have more faith in them than maybe they have in themselves. So yeah, it was a great scene.
For sure.
Was that your choice as a director to bring Joseph in? Or was that written in the script that he comes in the back and just because I don't think he ends up with any dialogue there, right?
No, he had no dialogue. It was in the script. The only thing was he was further back, but he felt that he should be closer. And so I felt it really worked as he drifted in and he was standing watching, and then he became part of the scene, but a silent part. And I felt that his instincts were great, that that's where he should be rather than hiding, and way in the back, but to be fully present in the space, but leaving the women to have their moment, but being there and loving them. So yeah, I thought it worked really well.
Just seeing his girls work through it, kind of thing was cute.
Yeah.
So this episode was, or episode 10 was almost the end of the school year. And so now we have students graduating. But we've had those, and we had those sweet moments with Emily in episode 10. And we all have memories of Grayson as a very young girl on the show. What strikes you about the scenes you shot with her, with Erin, Martin, and as well as with Loretta?
Well, first of all, as I said, I love working with young actors. I mean, to watch these children grow up into young adults is like really a stunning gift for me, and I love watching them blossom. And then I think what I got out of those scenes was the goodness of everybody and how it takes a village. That she goes from person to person, and they all love her and they all support her, and they all have words of wisdom. And I really felt that that's what those scenes were about in terms of like globally, Hope Valley were about, that it takes a village and that everybody cares about all the children in the village. And so that was a really kind of like lovely, each scene was great, and the casts were great, and I felt they were all meaningful, but just globally, I was really touched by the village aspect.
That's great.
Yeah, well, while we've all been watching the kids grow up, we also have our friend Bill Avery, that a lot of parties have been waiting for him to have a big romance. And finally, we got our moment. We got our big moment. That was quite a moment. So we heard from the writers that Jack Wagner said that he wanted to have less words in that scene and just kind of for Bill to make his move. So was that a discussion with you, or did that happen ahead of time, or how did that scene come about?
Well, I knew about it. He told me what he had wanted, and I think that like he and Melissa talked about how this was a moment, like it wasn't like a new romance. This was like a long held passion. And that, I think that's why he didn't want to say so many words, because, it was that they had loved each other really secretly, each of them, for years and years and years. And so I think that's what the kiss was all about as well. Like it wasn't like a gentle start of a romance. It was, a long standing passion and that's why they wanted to do the kiss that was more passionate than just, they didn't want to do a small kiss. They wanted to do something that really showed that they had really been in love with each other for a long time. And I thought their kiss totally said that.
It did, yeah, definitely 30 years of built up longing
Yeah.
there for sure.
Right?
Well, and how was it for you? We didn't touch on this, but getting to direct Melissa Gilbert had to be pretty special. Were you a Little House fan or
I was a Little House fan. Oh
were
my
you?
gosh, I was so excited that I got to work with her in my episode. She's just amazing. I just loved her so much. So talented, such a gracious woman. And yeah, I was really great when I read my episodes and I'm like, oh, good, good.
We had the privilege of we chatted with her in Heart to Hearties, and when people asked about it, I told her there was something about her. She has this ability, and I'm wondering if she did it with you. She just put us at ease within like a minute of talking to her. It was
Mhm.
this unbelievable ability that she's just very comfortable, makes you feel.
Yeah. Yes, she's really like a very calm individual and yeah, she's very she does put you right at ease right away. So although I was like tiny bit starstruck, but I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
100%.
Us too.
Arguably one of the biggest stars we've had on the show. So yeah,
Yeah,
totally
so
understand.
it was a like it was an honor to work with
Yeah,
her. Yeah.
very cool. Well, we got to talk about the diagnosis of little Jack, and there was a lot of really visuals that were just really lent to the devastation of that moment. Um, from Bill yelling Jackaroo, which was got all of us, I think, and then Nathan coming out of the bushes holding his little limp body, definitely got all of the Hearties. Talk to us about making that decision of him carrying him out of the bushes like that.
Um, so I mean, I guess part of it, well, for him to carry him out of the bushes, well, we had to find the right bushes for starters. And then, I thought that Hyland did an amazing job with being like limp. Like
Mhm.
that is a hard thing for a little boy to do,
Mhm.
And he's
Mhm.
got tons of energy, but he was like totally, I could do it, I could do it.
Aw.
And yeah, he was like really amazing. So the way I sort of designed it was I didn't want to do it all in cuts, short, sharp cuts. Like I wanted each person to be looking in their own space. So like when Bill goes into the barn, he's head to toe. You see where he is, and then he walks towards us, so you can see the anxiety on his face.
Mhm.
And then I did the same with Henry. Like so I show we're in the forest and he's head to toe, and then he also walks to us. And then the same when Rosemary goes to get Lee. So then it makes
Right.
sense. Then it makes sense for the same type of shot um, for Nathan finding Jack. Like we started wide, and then we again have him coming to us basically.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, so that it was important to me because I like a more elegant type of filmmaking, but also I felt that, if we did it all in cuts, then it builds. It was anxious enough. It didn't need more. It didn't need, us cutting all over the place to build the anxiety. I felt that it was enough for that the actors could carry us just with those small, like they walk to us instead of us going to them. Um, so I felt that it built enough tension, and it led to this finding of like the same shot, same idea about a shot of Nathan finding little Jack, and then we just see the back of them. I wanted to do, it's called a chase, where Nathan and Elizabeth walk with their backs to us and we chase them. And I wanted to do a little chase so that we could feel again how anxious they are reasonably. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of an
Yeah.
interesting I'm always aware that this is a family show, and so we need
Yeah.
to build tension and those things, but also we don't want to be scaring everybody half to death.
Mm.
Well, and capturing Elizabeth yelling Jack. I mean,
Oh my
it was
gosh. Yeah.
so like immediate flashbacks. And even the way you shot it with those different cuts was reminiscent of when Jack Sr. went missing years ago. like the way they were all calling his name and then her screaming like that with just all these flashbacks of it was just so well done. And I
Well,
love
that
that
would be the writers that would do
Yeah.
that. They would
Yeah.
they wrote it as an echo, I'm sure. And then for me, it just totally like Neill Fearnley was my teacher. He was my mentor on this show, really. Like I learned from him and how he shot. And so, like when in doubt, how would Neill do it?
Oh, love
Oh,
that.
Uh, and I feel like the way that it was shot as well, like, it made us a part of the search party. And
Right.
absolutely.
like you said at the end, where the shot is like Nathan and Elizabeth, we're behind them, it's like, and
Yeah.
that,
Like,
that,
go, go.
yeah, it's like, hurry, we need to get him to the infirmary.
Yeah.
And so speaking of the infirmary, every step of Faith's like diagnosis was like adding to the seriousness of the moment. And the way she takes the phone call from the lab, and then when she goes to Elizabeth's store, like she looks to the heavens, and then the lighting outside the row house as she waited for them to answer the door. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is this? It's gonna so what did you think when you were handed the script and this weighty ending?
Well, the first thing I thought was, oh my goodness, like what? Like what? And I jumped on the internet, like what? Like to do, I did all this. The first thing I did was all this research about insulin and like what? It was such a big deal. And then I thought about like how to convey this, and I thought about, okay, if I get bad news or when I have had bad news about a child, I don't want to move. Like it's like I don't want time to start again. Like I just want to sit here in this no time because as soon as I move, then I'm going to have to face all of the stuff, the fallout, right? So that's what I really wanted to do was try and create that stillness. And I mean, Andrea was amazing with her performance of in the build-up because she also didn't want to say anything, but by not saying anything, she was saying a lot. And I just thought she was completely brilliant. I thought all the cast were brilliant, actually. Like, and especially at the end when Elizabeth, Erin is like so amazing, and she just sat there and held that devastating piece of news for us. Really, that was really the whole thing was super moving, and another gift, like so many gifts in this show, but another gift, like to be able to work with these actors who are so good and they know their characters so well, and they understand about making a moment and holding space for the moment.
Yeah, and that moment that you were just mentioning of the close-up of Elizabeth, trying to grasp the information that Faith was giving her was so heartbreaking. And in the stillness, you can hear even her breathing and just the change of the breathing. And we also noticed that the music at the end was like really haunting, like added to, wow, this is really heavy.
Right. And that music came production, like the composer composed that music. So, kudos to him.
I have to
So
imagine
good.
that's the kind of scene when you yell cut. It's like, do you hear a pin drop in the room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Mm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because nobody quite knows what to do. And also it's a reverence for the moment, right? It's yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And you mentioned doing, your research. Well, the Hearties have been on the internet ever since the episode aired as well, and then sharing family stories as well. So it's been really touching. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. It's a big story for sure.
Mhm.
A lot of people have identified with it, so that's pretty
Mhm.
cool. And so what would you say was the biggest lesson for you as a director working on these episodes? How did it like expand your skills, or Was there a particular writer or actor or somebody from the crew who taught you something valuable?
You know, I learned quite a lot of things on this show. It was funny when I think about it, like I did learn quite a lot on this block because it was challenging with the different tones and stuff. But then when I really drilled down, I have to say that the person who taught me the most of something that I will carry with me is Ben. Because Ben Rosenbaum, like, he treats every moment with such, like, he wants to create maximum impact for every moment. And I just think that's so infectious. And I would like even a tiny moment, like bringing a trunk in, like he's 100% in. And I'm like, I'm going to take that with me to my next job and my next job and my next job, because it's totally infectious when someone works that hard and feels that connected to their character, especially even though it's a character a little bit outside of everybody else's characters. Like everyone else is having dramas and he's like has these comedic moments, but he really adds to every single scene he's in. So I think that's the thing that I'm like, I'm gonna take that to my next job. I'm gonna take every time I think about something, I will, if I'm trying to make the most of it, I will think about Ben and try and take those extra steps that he takes.
That's cool.
So it's
Love
what
that.
would Neill do and what would Ben do?
There we go. That's right. How would Neill
Great
shoot
men.
this, and what would Ben add? There we go.
There we go. Oh, I love that. Perfect. Can we put that like on a t-shirt? I feel like we should make
Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
right?
yeah.
we love both of them so much. So that's really, really lovely.
Mhm.
Oh, well, thank you, Siobhan. We have so enjoyed talking with the directors this season. We love everything that you bring to this show. It means a lot. So thank you for taking some time with us and diving into these scenes with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I mean, I love talking about the show, and I really appreciate the fan base on this show because it's amazing to me. It's amazing for me to make a show, and like I'm making it for you, like I'm making it for the Hearties, and that's a huge thing. It's a huge responsibility, and I appreciate that I get to explain a few things and interact with you. So thank you.
Yeah. We love hearing all the inside scoop and your perspective on everything. So it's so fun.
All the goodies. We love the
Yeah.
It
goodies.
really is. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Hearties, for joining us again for another Heart to Hearties. Let's hear from you. Did you love the Siobhan scenes that we talked about, or was there something different that you liked? Let us know in the comments because we love to hear from you. And then, guys, we only have 2 episodes left. Crazy. So tune in Sunday night, 9/8 Central. Come join us on X if you want to chat about the show using the hashtag Hearties. And then keep tuning in. You can subscribe, like on YouTube, and then all your favorite podcast platforms. So we'll see you next time. We got lots of good stuff coming. So stay tuned, Hearties. See you next time on Heart to Hearties.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.